Oh my God. Hello, PAX. Incredible. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be here. Y'all been enjoying PAX so far? Awesome. This is incredible. Apparently, this is the biggest audience that's been at PAX West so far this year. So give yourself a massive round of applause. Amazing. Thank you so much. There's a lot of people watching on Twitch right now, apparently. I want them to know just how many people are here. So let's do a roll call. How many Witcher 3 fans are in the house? Nice. Okay, now you're going to show your age probably a little bit, so apologies in advance. Witcher 2 fans in the house. That was louder. I think you're not doing this right, but I appreciate it. And then for the golden oldies out there, those who suffered through the bugs to enjoy that rich Slavic lore, Witcher 1 fans. Awesome. Any Gwent fans in the house? Wow. How about Cyberpunk? That'll probably be the last time that word is said on this panel. Let me just get that out of the way already. For those of you who don't know, my name is Danny O'Dwyer. I run a crowd-funded video game documentary channel called Noclip. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. We go around the world telling stories about video games, and we recently came back from a week and a half in Warsaw with the folks at CD Projekt, talking about The Witcher 1, 2, and 3, because of course in just a few weeks' time, the first game will be 10 years old. And that's why you're all here today, because that game was lit the fire under a bunch of people, then they were able to make a second, and then they were able to make Witcher 3, which, as we all know, swept a lot of Game of the Year awards and is one of the best fantasy role-playing games of recent memory. So we're here to talk about all three of those games. We have a bunch of people who've come all the way over from Warsaw. They're hard at work, actually, working on their next game, but they've taken the time off to be here. They appreciate you being here, and I'm going to get them out in just a hot second, so the Irish guy will stop rambling. I do want to let you know how the panel's going to work, though. We're going to talk about The Witcher 1, 2, 3 in 20-minute chunks. We've also got video packages of a bunch of ridiculous behind-the-scenes stuff, which apparently they're not really sure if they should show, but they're going to show anyway. And then we're going to open it up to a Q&A where we have microphones, but stay seated, enjoy the panel. Gwent and Yen are going to be out picking people for the last 30 minutes, so we'll do a put your hand up thing. So don't worry about lining up, just enjoy the show, and we'll get around to Q&As at the end. All right, let's get this thing started. Before we do, though, I've got a very special person to introduce before I get round to the rest of our murderers row here. You may recognize him from, I don't know, a decade of Witcher videos at this stage. He flew in yesterday to be here today, and he's flying out directly after the panel. He's very emotional and happy to be here, I know. He is he's the founder, I should say, and joint CEO of CD Projekt. I'd like to introduce, please, Mr. Marcin Nowinski.
Thank you very much, Jim. Wow. Wow, guys, thank you so much. But I'm just the co-founder and joint CEO. I'm not making these great games, you know. So take it easy, take it easy. Thank you very, very much for coming here. I mean, you really do not imagine what it means for us. We're discussing in the backstage, is there going to be, I don't know, half of the room, you know, maybe 60%, maybe less, and then here we go, it's full. So really appreciate for you taking the time to queue in, to come here. We've prepared, and actually Daniel already talked about it a little bit, we prepared a lot of special stuff, behind-the-scenes stuff which we really should have not been showing, but we'll show it to you, because we go full Monty today, really. It's a very important moment for us, 10th anniversary, time flies, so we might be a little bit emotional. there'll be Q&A at the end, so you might prepare some questions. I'm sure you have a lot of them. But without further ado, there wouldn't be an anniversary without a gift. So especially for this very moment, we've prepared a video for you. Enjoy.
Hey, was just reminiscing and realized, damn, been ages since we last saw each other. You know me, got a hard time staying put. Though, Regis says I'm getting old. Drops in with herbs for trysts sometimes. Strange species I've never seen. They grab Yennefer, lock themselves in her lab, spend all day brewing. Wouldn't dare interrupt them. Not that I'm complaining. Gives me time to help the guys with their contracts. Although, can't shake the feeling they mainly take jobs nearby. Lambert practically lives here. As I said, find it hard to sit still. Except, things are good here, you know? I'm good. We play Gwent, drink wine, swipe grapes from Anarietta's vineyards the odd moonlit night. Vesemir'd enjoy that especially. Been through hell and high water, you and me. Fact is, you know me better than anyone else does. Actually, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Thanks for everything. And know we all miss you, old friend. So, might be my birthday, but I say, here's to you. Now, tell us how you're doing.
All right, let's get these folks out here. This is my favorite part about interviewing Polish people, is having to pronounce their names. I swear to God, I've probably spent more time practicing the next 30 seconds than the whole rest of the panel. Did Jesse Cox put like a fart thing on my seat? Is that what happened there? I know he's here somewhere. All right, first of all, he was just out here. Let's get another warm round of applause for Mr. Marcin Iwinski. Thanks, Gerald. Next up from the Living World team, Mr. Bartek Ochman.
That was another easy one. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go through the tough ones. Danny.
Nice to see you.
Hey, everyone.
From the adaptation team, this is the team responsible for taking Sapkowski's book and turning it into the video game lore, Mr. Boris Pugac-Miraskiewicz.
8 out of 10.
Okay. Next up, a gentleman responsible for basically most of the music in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and also a lot of the sound design in The Witcher 2, Mr. Marcin Pisebiewicz. Okay? No? Thanks. I don't even need the book for this one. Next up from the Quest team, Paweł Sasko. Geralt's not happy about a quest you put him on. All right, thank you all so much for being here today. Before we get into the weeds on game design and business and all that good stuff, what does it mean to be here?
Who was that?
I'm happy to take that up, actually. 10 years
for the franchise, 11 years for me personally, and for me it's really a blend of pride, indubitably, tempered, I think, by gratitude.
Right.
Pride. We started out, you know, in some respects, just barely getting that first title out, improving on it a year later, taking a different tack with the second title, moving on to a new platform, arguably with the third title ascending to the top of RPG gaming, staying there for a while, with the expansions as well. We're still in the franchise with Gwent. And to compare us now versus 11 years ago, just in organizational terms, in terms of personal skills, it's just a huge, 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 huge improvement by leaps and bounds.
Boris is saying he learned a lot. So.
And gratitude, because, well, gratitude towards the fans for sticking with us through thick and thin, weathering all the storms, being supportive, providing feedback. Gratitude to all the business partners, all the wonderful performers, the VO directors, the actors in all the languages. Gratitude to all the other business partners, and gratitude, I think, last but not least, to our families, our loved ones, who endured a lot, who were supportive throughout.
For me, the gratitude is also, I think, the strongest thing I feel, actually, because it's 4 years as a fan and 6 years as a developer.
Right.
And when Witcher 1 was being made, I knew about this weird and amazing company actually being based somewhere in Warsaw, and I really wanted to be part of it. And I was rejected actually multiple times. But that didn't stop me. And I joined like 6 years ago during Witcher 2, and that was an amazing ride to build this thing, you know, to be a part of Witcher 2, Witcher 3,
right.
Expansions. It's just a great feeling, guys.
It's a unique thing, I think, to your sort of company story, in that, like, The Witcher, the book series, was already had like a loyal and dedicated fan base before the games came out. So in a way, the journey has actually sort of been longer than a decade. It's been part of like much of your lives, right?
Some of us are, first we were fans of the books, then we joined the company. I have my motivation letter that I sent to company. Can I? So.
This is the letter you sent to the company?
Yes, exactly.
On a tiny piece of paper?
No, it's my notes.
You guys must have been struggling.
I kept it for So, it's hard to describe my admiration for Witcher world created by Master Sapkowski. I read all his Witcher books dozens of times. I know many fragments by heart. Half of my friends I have linked in my mind to characters created by Master Sapkowski. Basically, I've got the Witcher disease.
Awesome. Yeah. We're all infected here. Should we crack on?
Maybe just a word from me, the veteran, because the company is my first kid, and then I had three more.
Right.
Hello, honey and kids watching me. CD Projekt was the first story.
Do you see how your dad celebrates the first kid's birthday?
Yeah. Thank you, Danny. That was great. You know what I'll have back home.
Right.
But seriously, so it all started with a dream, because we started as a distribution company. So we were going to all these trade shows and looking at games, and we always wanted to have our own baby, and we're especially fascinated with RPGs. So seeing this today, it's for me unbelievable. Making the first game has taken us 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, and we actually started very differently to most of game developers, because we're actually gamers running distribution business, so passion and gaming, but we had no clue whatsoever how to write games and how to develop games. So 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, and there was Witcher 1, and that was incredible, because already we saw that there is a huge following, huge fan base. And actually, the most important part I wanted to say, because Boris went a little bit deeper into the gratitude thing, And this really means a lot to us, and it's not just us talking, because with Witcher 1, especially when we were looking for a partner to help us get the game to stores, and back then there was no digital distribution, so publishers were the gods. They were, the ultimate gatekeepers. And so we were rejected so many times. It was extremely stressful time for me, because we were showing, people were coming to our offices, we were presenting, there was due diligence, we were talking about the lore, passionate about books, and then, a month down the line or 2 months down the line, I was getting a call, yeah, wow, great, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, no.
Right.
And then that was it. And then you guys were showing us that we are walking the right path, and you were always there to support us. So thank you very, very much for it.
Awesome. It's for you. Okay, we've got a lot of video games to discuss the design of, so let's get the ball rolling. First of all, we've got a nice little video package for The Witcher 1.
The story begins with The Witcher 1.
Yeah.
So I was reading the books, and I'm a huge Sapkowski's fan. But then the game appeared on the market, and I was really waiting for it. And I start playing with hope that finally it will be like a really good Polish game,
Right.
and that I will feel the same atmosphere like I had in the books. And it was like that.
Our hero, Geralt of Rivia, known in some parts simply as the White Wolf, or even simpler, the Witcher, is a mercenary monster slayer whose heightened senses, lightning-quick reflexes and superhuman strength are the result of the torturous magical experiments he was subjected to in his youth, and have made him an outcast to some, a necessary tool to others.
Generally the vibe of the place so dreary in some parts, but like the nice kind. I felt very, very authentic, and I don't know, for whatever weird reason, one of the bigger moments that stuck with me, other than of course the story, is that one quest where the woman had the monster in her basement, the old lady, I don't know, and the drunken section with where you try to steal the pickles and the and the lard. That was really cool. Yeah.
You're joking.
That mummy must have some lard, maybe pickles too.
Shawnee?
Just don't get caught, Geralt. I'll pay for them tomorrow.
What was it you liked? What was it, the sort of the same rich Slavic lore that was in the books, or was it the questing, or the? Everyone says atmosphere.
Atmosphere, exactly. I don't know how to explain that, because what is atmosphere? Like a music, colors of the game, maybe some plot. But to be honest, if you want to point it out, you don't know exactly what is it. But it is. Like The Witcher 1 was in my opinion, the most Sapkowski game like we did in SDP.
The game's based on a series of best-selling novels by Polish fantasy writer Andrzej Sapkowski. And unlike any other fantasy setting that you've witnessed so far, there's no good and evil in this one. No fine line, you know? Especially for our main hero, Geralt, who was brought up and trained to be a witcher. A professional monster slayer without any human emotions.
Ready? Come on! Hit me! With pleasure. I'll show you a real man's balls. You talk too much. Scared? That's more like it. Come on. 3, none.
So I mean, it took 5 years to make the game. Maybe if the 3D artists weren't doing foosball animations, it would have taken a bit less, perhaps. I want to talk about what you were sort of reference there, Bartek, about atmosphere. When you go back and people talk about the Witcher, the first Witcher game, there was something about it. You know, people refer to technically it's quite a world away from what happened with 2 and 3, right? But there was something there, right? It was an incredibly unique game, even in the RPG space, which is, you know, can be quite trite.
I don't know how to point it out. It was something like, I remember a whole chapter of Vizima Outskirts and Temple Quarter. And I was playing it, and I was feeling that this is it. Like, colors, I don't know, guys, maybe you will help me.
Yeah, there's this basically amazing story arc that is built in The Witcher 1, you know. And I remember when I was playing this bit when Shani is checking the guy's head and they find like eggs in his brain or something, and literally I like peed myself, you know, guys. Like there was this dialogue was so incredibly long. I think like Boris is actually the part to blame, you know, here. And but the dialogue was incredibly long. But God damn it, I clicked every single option, and I was like, wow, that's an amazing 30 minutes of dialogue. But the story, I mean, it all made sense, right? It was all put together with, I mean, such a care and such love that I just understood, like, there's something there, and we can actually make it like this.
But you told about the quest. Okay, it was really sophisticated quest, but also we had quests like kill all dogs in Vizima Outskirts or something like that.
Yeah, the
different level of, but it fits to the story.
Yeah, the dog catcher of Vizima, I don't know if you guys remember it, but Gravedigger was paying you to bring 6 pots of the dog tallow, actually. And I remember the thread on like Steam forums when people were writing that they drank all their dog tallow. I was like, okay, and then I was checking, oh, of course, because it was a good base for elixirs, you know, and for the swords. So, of course, you know, they drank all the dog tallow, so...
It's disgusting. What was that like? I mean, the whole process of adapting a universe that exists over 6 books, it must be very complex.
I was actually going to interject, actually, because these guys are starting to talk about details. But honestly, we've got to go back to the fact that we had a body of work to draw on. And that body of work was, you know, a 5-novel saga, 2 collections of short stories. And it's there that I think you first encountered the atmosphere that you then refound in The Witcher 1. That's sort of the challenge of adaptation. You've got a book that has a fan base, and the Witcher community, online community in general, I think is a lot older than 10 years. You know, it probably started somewhere in the mid-1990s with the publication of the books. So, you know, the novels had developed and the world had developed a fan base. And that's a challenge, actually, when you're going to take a book and turn it into, or a series of books, and turn it into a game. You have a fan base that, on the one hand, is really excited to see a product or you know, an IP that it loves in one form arrive you know, in another format, in another medium. On the other hand, they're attached to the lore. They're attached to the characters. They're going to hang you by the balls if you get the lore wrong.
Right.
You know.
If you don't have your favorite character in it, for instance.
Well, but okay. There were early attempts at creating a Witcher game. Where you could create your own Witcher. You could name him, you could have whatever characteristics you wanted to give him.
That was the first version.
That was the first version, exactly. But it didn't plant roots, for the simple reason that fan base out there wanted to play not as a Witcher, but as the Witcher, as Geralt of Rivia. Yeah. So on the one hand, you know, you've got to serve the fans. On the other hand, you have to make, you know, the IP, the game IP, your own.
Right.
With The Witcher 1, I think we were serving fans. I think we were trying to remain as faithful as we possibly could, taking small liberties here and there. These guys mentioned specific quests. I'll cite characters like Captain Vincent, the town watch, the captain of the town watch in Vizima. A combination of, I don't know, Andy Sipowicz from NYPD Blue and Big B. Wolf from the Fables comic books. I'll cite, who are the other big ones? And you know, he was a cop with a Brooklyn accent in the middle of medieval-esque Vizima, you know. And that's, you know, and Sapkowski's novels were full of references like that. Not nearly as contemporary, but nevertheless. And I think that's what you're talking about when you say that, you know, you found what you saw in The Witcher 1 was a similar atmosphere.
When I go back and look at it, there's just such a depth to it where there's things happening and interesting characters that you almost don't have time to sort of even spend too much time enjoying because you're getting onto the next thing. What I'm also a little bit interested in is that earlier version of The Witcher. What was that? How did it differentiate? Was it just character stuff? Was it gameplay? Very different?
The first one was more of a tech demo. So there were 4 people in Łódź on a local, working on a local tech, and yeah, we had the tech demo. There were like a few locations. I still remember one when there was a tree and there were crows all around it. And although we had the most powerful PC back then, whenever there was a move, the birds started flying around, and then it was slowing down, sort of. Anyway, we went on a tour to meet our hopefully soon-to-be publishing partner in Europe, 2 weeks. And we had the contacts from the distribution, so we were meeting actually the right people. It wasn't like, you know, like random meetings, but all the key publishers back then. And after this 2 weeks, we were super proud. We had a huge, beautiful design doc. We still have 1 copy. And we got 2 emails back. 2, yeah, like 10 or 12 meetings, 2 emails from the best friends. They were kind enough to respond in a very polite business way that we should still work a little bit more on it. Pretty much, it sucked, like I was saying. So after that, we relocated 3 out of 4 people. Actually, we couldn't find an agreement with the gentleman owning the technology, and relocated them from the city of Łódź to Warsaw. We put more people on it. There was only one problem. We didn't have the tech. So as we were distributing Interplay, and one of the biggest games for us back then was Baldur's Gate, which we fully localized to Polish. And also, like, in all honesty, when we were going to all these trade shows, we were envious. Like, we really wanted to have our own game. We were dealing with other people's games, and we were looking at these Baldur's games, like, yeah, it would be great to have something like that.
You've been distributing games for like a decade at this stage, right?
Yeah. And we, being at E3, I mean, we checked all the engines around. There was nothing for RPG. There was Unreal. There was something else. We looked at a couple. And
The Witcher would have been very different in Unreal Engine.
Yeah, I mean, I think even I mean, first of all, it would look very different. But we really wanted to remove as many obstacles to making the game as possible. So the first one, we had the books, we had the lore. We didn't want to build the lore because it's really hard, and it adds a lot of risk. And anyway, it was, for us, it was like working on Tolkien's works, yes, for Polish people. So that's why we are all so passionate about The Witcher. So we were super lucky. And then we wanted really to use an external tech to limit the risk. And we knew BioWare, so really honestly, like, we were at E3, went to the West Hall, went to their booth and said, hey guys, what do you think about licensing your tech? And Ray and Greg, like, scratched their heads, yeah, we're thinking about that. Let's do this. And after probably 2 or 3 months, we were already working on Aurora.
So you walked up to the doctors and basically just...
Yeah, the doctors. Yeah.
Right.
The doctors help us a lot. And then, so within 9 months from then, we had a prototype. And that was super, super fast. That was still the more generic Witcher that wasn't Geralt. And doctors, again, helped us out a lot. And I'm really grateful to Ray and Greg until this very day.
They gave you your first E3 space, right?
Actually, yeah, they gave us a call. We were totally shocked, yeah. Come on. No. You're laughing. That's not fair. That's a very prominent space.
It's a very nice chair.
No, what is important about this one here is that we were a distributor of games in Poland. So like a pedigree in the games development world, minus 25 or minus 100, like zero, non-existent. Who are these guys? And suddenly BioWare, the gods of RPGs,
right.
Showcases at their booth, okay, in a corner, but they had all the big press, all the IGNs, all the GameSpots of this world coming to their booth to see Jade Empire at that time on Xbox. And then also like, hey, by the way, here in the corner we have a really cool game from Poland called The Witcher, and we were covered everywhere. So it was an amazing thing for us.
So at that stage, like for you guys being in Poland, did you know about this game beforehand, or was it when it started getting pulled into like bigger games media that then you started to really like see it for the first time?
Yeah, that was one of the things that really inspired me to actually, join CD Projekt and really like start in a gaming industry, because I heard about that. And as Bartek, I actually loved the books before. So for me, as a Polish person, I was like, wow, I just really want to make this thing. I want to see it done well, And if I can, maybe I can be a part of it, like be a cleaning person or like, deliver coffee in the office.
Just keep on applying, and
Exactly, and I was at the time, like that was a long time ago, but I was born in like Polish village and like at the south of Poland, like close to Ukraine, and I was taking cows to the fields, for posturing, and I had in my bag actually books from Sapkowski, that I was reading. Actually, I knew them very well, and that was the thing, when I saw this thing being made, I felt, wow, I really want to be part of it. I knew I have zero chance, but I mean that.
Did you put this particular experience in your CV?
I omitted that part, but maybe that would help me to get in earlier. Yeah.
That's important. It's an important
I didn't think about it. Yeah.
I actually had very similar experience. I still remember, like it was yesterday, seeing the Polish national news, evening news, right? And there was like the second report on the blog, so it was still quite important that basically Polish market emerges and we're gonna have our first own full-blown video game.
Right.
And it's called Wiedźmin, The Witcher. And it already rang a bell because I've read Witcher books from like, elementary school. And I still remember seeing snippets of the cinematic Platy's Image did. And my jaw just like dropped, a few stories below. I was 20 or something at that point. I was studying at musical academy, so I was tackling over with music anyways, but I still didn't have any idea what I should do when I grow up, graduate, and how the hell I'm gonna earn money, right, and build my career. And after seeing that podcast, I knew, okay, this is the place I wanna be, this is the shit I wanna do.
Yeah.
And from that time, it took me like 4 or 5 years to actually break into CD Projekt. So right. I was sending you my CVs for like 4 years straight.
My goodness.
Thank you. Thank you for being persistent.
I think it wasn't until I don't think the West or people outside Poland realized how much it meant to Poland until, like, I remember reading news articles about the fact that, like, Barack Obama was getting a copy of it was the second game, I think, is it?
Yeah, that was the second game.
It's amazing how much, like, and now that we go to Warsaw now and there's, like, so many games development studios, and there's also, like, a lot of crossover. I know people have worked at Techland who work at CD Projekt and vice versa as well. There's actually a pretty good, like, video game
it's the
infrastructure.
The environment is very strong, but back in the day, like Witcher 1 and probably the early beginnings of Witcher 2, gaming industry in Poland was a funny thing, like a nerdy funny thing. Still remember when with Michał, the co-founder, it was before Witcher 1. We had a very healthy business, distribution business, profitable, nice revenues, and we went to a bank, and we filed the application for our first credit. So we prepared all the papers. We're not very good with finances, so I was preparing them. It's taking me a lot of time and energy, and I was super stressed. And then at the end, the lady asked, like, computer games? Yeah. Oh, okay. So what your parents own? Like flats, cars? We really need some serious collateral. We're like, okay, thank you. So that was the concept about computer games, like a funny, strange business for nerds. And then actually the Barack Obama thing, which really sort of happened. We were asked many times how it happened and how we arranged it. We did not. So actually, before Barack Obama's visit, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was calling us, but nobody was really picking up at our reception. So this story could have just ended right there, but they called another company in Poland and they reached out to us saying, hey, like Ministry of Foreign Affairs wants to get in touch with you. So they reached out and said like, hey, we want to win a gift and we'd like a collector's edition. And we're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So we're signing it at the studio. I'm going around, it's like, hey, it will be a gift for Barack Obama. Yeah, blah, 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 joking, as usual, fun, you know. Like, guys, watch the news. And in the evening, the news, and, you know, Prime Minister handing it over. And it was a huge thing. It was sort of a signal that this is serious stuff. Because I always remember when I was traveling around and people were asking me, so what is Polish economy like? What is it based on? And honestly, there were two things coming to my mind immediately. Sausage and vodka. And I was like...
It's pretty good. Shout out for sausage and vodka.
Yeah, but like, you know...
Sausage, vodka, and The Witcher is like a pretty solid Saturday night.
Yeah, and right now it's The Witcher, sausage, and vodka. So yeah, that's a big change. It's good.
Yeah. A lot can happen in 10 years.
From sausage to Witcher.
Yeah. Well, sausage is always going to be up.
10th year anniversary.
That was the original title for this, but we haven't made us change it. Before we move on to the second game, we talked a little bit about specifics at the start. I want to throw it out there again. Favorite quests. What are some of your favorite quests that pop into your mind when you think about that first game?
I don't have one. I could say whole chapter in Tempo Quattro was the best from the game. Like one quest by another was perfect. So I cannot pick one. Boris?
It's very difficult to cite a specific quest. I'm really attached to characters and characterizations. I cited Captain Vincent of the Vizima Town Watch, Raymond Marlowe, the detective, a pretty good impression of Humphrey Bogart in the world of The Witcher. That's where my affinities lie. You know?
Awesome. Marcin, yourself?
I don't think that's the best moment to come out of the closet, but, well, here I am. Actually, I haven't played Witcher 1 at all.
Oh
Never.
my God.
Oh my God. We're leaving, sorry.
Fucking leaving.
Shame on you. Shame.
Wow. All right, moving along.
I was going to.
You should have told me before it came out.
I was going to, but at that time my machine wasn't that strong enough. And then it's kind of, I don't know. And then Witcher 2 happened, so no. I got an excuse, right? But I watched part of it on YouTube at least, so.
That'll do you, Papa.
I mean, I personally love all those ridiculous ideas in the quest design, and we did lots of this in Witcher 3, but we'll maybe get to this later. But you know, the the quests about gathering the dog tallow, or like the one when you're supposed to get the leash for the cat, or rather the bells for the cat, so that the Greeks could ride on it. Like that those were. I think that shows actually like the level at that point of like understanding the lore and maybe building it all together where we were actually at that point, you know. So.
Awesome. All right, we got a bunch more games to talk about, so let's keep on moving. Let's check out a video for The Witcher 2. Ooh.
The first Witcher was powered by Aurora Engine, and it was really cool that BioWare helped us with the first game, but we modified the Aurora Engine significantly. Sometimes we say that 80% of the code was completely rewritten. Eventually, we decided to develop our own engine with a clear goal that after the release of the PC version, we're going to have a console game. And it was because of the Rise of the White Wolf. We failed with the Rise of the White Wolf, but we won with The Witcher 2.
Talu scenę, żeby jak będzie bliski kadr, żeby on nie ruszał się bardzo, więc nagramy samo zerwanie miecza, a później samo złamanie ręki. Tak.
You've broken my arm!
A lot of memories there. Hits you right in the feels. We've a lot to talk about in terms of this, but first of all, I feel when as gamers, when we think about these games, we think about the end experience, we think about how different it compares to our expectations or the games previously, and there's a lot to unpack with The Witcher 2. But with this one, there's a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes, I feel like, that got you to The Witcher 2. Business stuff that sort of set you up to be able to make the games that you wanted to make, and ultimately make The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt as well. Marcin, could you tell us a little bit about sort of what it was like doing your own engine, having your own control over your IP, and how much that factored into making the second game?
I think that was super important for us from the very beginning, and we were lucky enough that we're self-funded, so all the proceeds from our distribution business were invested directly into Witcher 1. However, around like after 3 years of development, we had already 50 or 60 people on board, and it was really too heavy to carry. So we needed to find someone who would help us financially, like at least co-fund the last year. Plus, what was even more important, we could probably even arrange the funds, but getting the game to the market, so going through a gatekeeper. As I mentioned at the very beginning, it was really tough because we were being rejected. And I still remember these publishers, quite a lot of them, it's still out there, so we're talking to all the big guys. And they were coming to our studios, and even without any contractual discussions, we were pitching them with, telling them about the lore, saying that, describing it, why this is a predefined hero, why it's driving the story. We had the stories, some of the stories translated for them to read. We're sending them presentations, and then we had a question like, so why there is no multiplayer? And like what? Our focus tests are showing that there should be a multi-class. Can the main hero be elven female? And we said, yeah, of course, guys. We'd love to do it, but sorry, no. So we were rejected on these grounds. Finally, we found a partner willing to go ahead with the project. So really nobody, honestly speaking, nobody believed we'll deliver the game, that we'll make it happen. No experience, unknown guys from Poland, and they're telling that they'll make like, I don't know, 100 hours RPG. That's a no-go. It's impossible.
Were you pitching this also as a console game? Because obviously,
no. We're pitching it solely as a PC game. We knew like that we cannot do any other platforms, and then Aurora was not suitable for it. Hence the change to the next engine. But what is important was we already were quite experienced in business, and we had very key assumptions. We wanted to remain on the full control of the intellectual property, so own everything related to The Witcher, and we wanted to have creative control. We knew we'll have to give away big parts of the proceeds to the publishers, so the usual, I don't know, 70%, so 30% royalty for us, but we didn't want to get rid of the control. We agreed this with Atari. We signed after probably a month of discussion, heads of agreements, like a 4-pager, took us a month. And then we said, okay, right now we'll get the agreement, it will be peachy, rosy, and we'll live happily ever after. And then we get an agreement, and the agreement pretty much says that we don't own anything, they own everything.
Wow.
It took me, and we're really tight on cash, it took me 6 months, like 2-3 calls a week with our lawyers to make this agreement happen.
Right.
But that was the foundation which then allowed us to do co-publishing on Witcher 2 and pretty much self-publishing on Witcher 3. What it means for you guys, it means that we can deliver exactly what we want to deliver and nobody's telling us what should we do and what shouldn't we do, what should be in the packaging or why they don't like what we're proposing. If we want to do free DLC, we do the free DLC. If we want to do huge expansions, we do huge expansions. So that's pretty much the foundation to our freedom and to our values, and that's super important for us.
Right. So you went through all that work to give yourself that breathing space to be able to create the game you wanted to make. And then you made a game that is quite different to the first game in terms of it's almost like the first game is sort of based more on the short stories, and then Witcher 2 is sort of on the saga aspect. Is that fair to say, Bart?
Yes, the second installment was slightly different because touched different main topics. So Geralt is get stuck in some political intrigues or something like that. So it's much more about huge subjects than more intimate and small histories about Geralt, the Witcher. But what I can say more about the guys?
I mean, Witcher 2 had an amazing focus on cinematics, right? And we wanted to tell the story and more show the characters. Like a lot of screenwriters will tell you that the good stories are told to the good characters, and you can even have a shit story. If you have a good characters and you show them well and you give them space, they will actually carry your story. And you can see it right now, in a lot of series, in the Netflix series, that it's actually happening. So what happened in The Witcher 2 was that a lot of dialogues were just pulled off in a way more cinematic way than in The Witcher 1. You could see the full characters. They had pretty decent facial experience. The voiceover was better. Actually, Boris put way more work into the accents, which maybe he will like to share some information about.
Okay, for me, The Witcher 1, we started in Kaer Morhen, we wound up in Vizima, at first its outskirts, then in the various quarters across the lake, but we were going around in circles. With The Witcher 2, new tech, a new focus on cinematics, we went on an adventure, I think. We got Geralt embroiled, as Pavo said, in a serious sort of political plot, and we set out into the world. And in terms of what that entailed for me was actually designing the world, a world where you do have different dialects, and you do have different nations, and you do have different small populaces. So the Aedirnians, we inherited sort of the haughty, RP elves, the Queen's English elves, and the Scottish dwarves. Just standard, I think, fantasy tropes from The Witcher 1, but to that, we added Aedirnians who were Welsh, Temerians who we defined as roughly the Midlands, Kedwenis who were Irishmen. And I mean, we had our concerns, because the only thing that I sort of associated with an Irish accent was leprechauns and very sort of cheery people and
Geralt hunts for Lucky Charms.
The mascot, yes, exactly. The mascot, exactly. the mascot for breakfast cereal. But I think we succeeded in making Hansel, just a ruddy, brash, full-blooded Irishman, so to speak, and all his army similarly, and that's something that that sort of design is something we carried over into The Witcher 2.
But Witcher 2 is sort of building on our experience and our strengths from The Witcher 1. So Witcher 1, if you put it into perspective, we spend a lot of time just fighting with the reality, making it work, getting a build done, cooking a build that was crashing. We wrote, we pretty much rewritten 80% of the code. So the environment which we were working in wasn't very stable. And we learned on that, and already Witcher 2 was our own technology. So we were way more in control. And then, of course, with the development of the hardware, we were able to get the bar up and use better means, more cinematic means to tell the stories. Yes, it wouldn't be possible without Witcher 1. It's looking beautiful. That's why you had to go and buy a new PC. But that's that's guaranteed when there is a new game from us. So.
Also, because of the new tech, we were able to introduce some open world elements because the first installment, Witcher 1, was quite simple. Like the space was limited, and in the Witcher 2, we had bigger locations, and it allows us to have some experiments before the Witcher 3.
Yeah, I wanted to mention one thing regarding Witcher 2. So the one thing we did, which was amazing, was building our own technology. And there was a lot of new things, like our quest editor and our scene editor, that were like something remarkable, really. But then we really didn't know where we are going, right, when it was being built. So then, when the Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition was on the horizon, we wanted to, release the Red Kit along with it and so on. And then it turned out that actually there's just shit ton of stuff that we need to rewrite to just make sure that the mortal person is able to operate it.
Right.
Because it was just so complex and just illogical, basically the way it was built in, that it just took us a year to just make it nicer and better. But then, we carried over this whole experience to Witcher 3 because we basically knew, okay, what we can't really do, right?
I've heard as well, we talked previously about how you put that out, obviously, for the sort of modding community, right? For people to play with the game and make their own mods. But it's bizarrely become this sort of de facto recruitment tool.
Yeah. So that's an interesting story because for the quest team, basically, when we recruit people to the team, we just ask them to prepare a quest, basically.
Right.
And, well, we ask them to prepare the quest in the Red Kit. So, we basically can see their skills, like, right away. So they use this Red Kit that we released to show what they can do. So that became a recruitment tool for us.
There was one person who I met when I was over in Warsaw who made like an entire quest. Like you asked them to make like a quest, and then they ended up doing like everything but the voiceover essentially in Red Kit.
Yeah, that one is Philip. He's still part of our team, and actually we have few quest designers who were modders before, and they were doing amazing. So,
all right,
they had good school.
You want to work in Poland, start modding The Witcher 3 right now.
what he didn't say is that the quest was 6 hours long. So
oh my God.
Anything under 6, just don't send it.
Not the mod.
6+.
Was Blood and Wine just somebody's CV they put in, a resume? Actually, let's talk about scale, because that's where the scale issue seems to come in, right? And we'll get into the weeds of it in The Witcher 3, I'm sure. But The Witcher 1 was a game that, you tried to make this game, pare it down a little bit maybe. The Witcher 2...
Well, the other thing with The Witcher 1 is actually we had externally imposed word count limits from the publisher.
Oh, really?
That we could not exceed.
Like global word count?
Global word count could not exceed XYZ because the localization and VO recording costs would be through the roof. It wasn't in the budget.
Right.
With The Witcher 2, we no longer had those. And
so then you said,
well, we had self-imposed limits.
Right.
How those worked out, well.
very well.
It's essentially a game that sort of like splits into two different games at a certain point. Like.
Yeah, but even like if you look at Witcher 1, because what Boris didn't mention, we got the publishing partner board fairly late. So already by that time, we've got the game 2 or 3 times. And every single time, I still remember, because the development team initially was sitting in our warehouse, and then like next to the window was were like folders with locations, and were like a whole line of folders, and then cutting the scope was like removing part of these folders and putting them away, and then like less and less folders, and people started getting very nervous, like this game will be so small, oh my god, you know, like wow, why? So we probably removed, I don't know, 50% of the content, like scale-wise.
For 1 or 2?
For one, for the
one.
first one.
What about 2 then?
But the thing is that when we started, we had no clue whatsoever what it will mean, how it will translate to the actual gameplay. And when we put the locations, we populated, and we said like, wow, it's huge. It's a gigantic thing, and making the first game, we just, I think if we wouldn't have cut it, we wouldn't be able to ship it, because we wouldn't be able to test it, we wouldn't be able to afford all that. So yeah, I think it's good, but we're never really good in managing scope. What I think, guys, you guys are quite happy with, I hope. And then on Witcher 2, we did this 2 chapters.
Well, yeah, but completely justified, I think, because Vernon Roach and Yorveth are NPCs that deserve, you know, separate and distinct paths like no other NPCs I know.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the specifics then. I mean, I asked for favorite quests because some of you weren't working on the team yet. Basically, everyone sitting down here worked on some aspect of The Witcher 2, right? So can you give us a little bit of insight into how quests are made? Like how ideas came about, stuff that was cut, stuff that made it in that you didn't think was going to make it in, that type of thing. What are your favorite ones?
I mean, there's lots of stuff that I really liked in The Witcher 2, but there's one story I wanted to tell you guys. So, for a good 6 weeks, we had a crash, 100% crash in the game happening if you decided to pick an option with Triss in the dialogue not to have sex with her.
Wait, 6 weeks?
Yeah, so basically we started doing regression tests, and we figured out that the bug was introduced like 6 weeks back, and pretty much nobody really caught it.
Aren't there people on the team whose specific job it is to choose every possible option?
And there is.
There
I
are.
mean, our QA is extremely dedicated, and you know.
Now we have, right? Now we have.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, currently it works like that we have this roadmap that shows you all the possible choices, and basically person is picking the exact things, you know. And of course there are other testers who just they do whatever they want, because they also uncover issues playing like this. So yeah, that is covered. But you know, during that time, and you know, that was a lot of work, and it just somehow, you know, everybody was just, you know.
It was really well animated, I'm sure. Is that? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I mean, this cutscene was a lot of work, you know, like a lot of FXs and so on. So I'm pretty sure they wanted to test out if the shaders are
acting. If it plays out well, yeah.
Jesus. Any other stuff that comes into mind? Interesting quest, because you were.
Yeah, I mean, there was. So there's this moment when Geralt takes the illusionary potion, right? And he starts seeing things during Witcher 2. And I remember there was like this moment when it was late at night. We were sitting in the office like finishing stuff, and one of the designers was like, he was a bit tired, and he thought, okay, he picked like a really big chicken and put it into the forest and like scaled it up. And then there were these like wooden dildos. The wooden dildos, they were like lying around the brothel in the tent, and he just picked them up, and he was like, I'll just scale them around, right? So he scaled those dildos around the chicken, and he started the game, and he approached with Geralt. He approached this chicken, looked up, and in the shot he had this chicken with the dildos around. And then our director walked in, and he looked at it and said, "That's fucking amazing!" Like we.
That one.
Oh, and
yes.
So I'm guessing if Atari was publishing the game, this probably wouldn't have been cool.
We'll never know.
Maybe more. Maybe they had metrics saying that dildos in games were actually really hot right now. Scale that up. For the rest of you folks playing the game, working on the game, any other quests that sort of come out to you? Bartek, what about you?
I remember one. It was named In the Claws of Madness. It was about some burned hospital in the middle of the forest. And it was really nice, really spooky, and the whole Witcher 2 touches different mood or different atmosphere, and that one was straight from the Witcher 1,
right?
Like copy and paste from the first installment, and it was really great because it was in a different mood. You had some plot about treason and about ghosts, and it was really nice.
You have an affinity, it seems, for that style of Sapkowski, right? Like the Witcher 1 sort of stuff.
Exactly.
I think we all do, but I mean, I totally bought into the political intrigue of The Witcher 2. I was with it, and to me, the prologue quest where you're interrogated by Vernon Roach and you look back at what you did in a series of nonlinear flashbacks, where you make nonlinear choices that play out later in the game. Yeah, that was something new and something really meaty.
And I guess you kind of had your cake and ate it then with The Witcher 3, where you basically had a game that had both of them in it. We have a lot of stuff to talk about in relation to The Witcher 3, so we're going to show a video just in a second, but before we do, this is a pretty good video, Martin.
Yeah, it's a pretty good video, and actually we had some resistance internally to show it, so it's a message for the head of the studio, Adam Badowski. Adam, we have so many fans here, we just couldn't not have shown it, so I'm really sorry for that. That's a real behind-the-scenes exclusive. There's a lot of reveals out there of how things happen before they're ready, so be ready for something very special.
All right, everyone, enjoy.
Once we were many, now we are few. Hunters, killers of the world's filth, witchers, the ultimate killing machines. Among us, a legend, the one they call Geralt of Rivia, the White Wolf.
Will you help me if I bring the goat back? Come on, take you back to the pillar. Misses you something awful. Where the hell did you go?
Bear! Run, you stupid piece of shit!
Okay, do a couple more and we'll be good.
Rated M for mature.
At CD Projekt Red, it has always been our goal to take you on adventures both legendary and grounded in reality.
You all right?
Ugh. Never go in a sauna again, long as I live. Other than that, I think I'm fine. You saved my life. How can I thank you?
One more and we're good.
Round of applause for Paolo for his amazing voice work. Oh. My God. We're editing this like 7-part documentary series for next month. I have so much B-roll of people pretending to have sex on my hard drive right now. My wife is going to open up a folder and it's going to be an awkward conversation about it. Okay, I mean, there's so much to talk about with Wild Hunt and the expansions. First of all, though, I want to talk about, I mean, it's an open world game. You never made an open world game before. You've made really big games, but making an open world is a whole different kettle of ballparks. Bartek, what was that like? What was the process of like just straight from the start, open world? How do we do this?
I remember my first impression. It was something like the world is so huge, we won't leave company for next 5 years.
Right.
To fill it up with stuff.
The world map had like been made, and then you were responsible for like, all right, how do we put stuff in, right?
Exactly. So first of all, we decided to prepare something like a major test. So we took one of the Skellig Islands, Art Skellig, create a map, then put horizontal and vertical lines on it, and then we create a special QA unit to test the game, and they will keep playing and checking for which period of time we can catch focus for the player who is riding from point A to point B.
Okay.
And it appeared that it's 27 seconds. So we have our internal 27 seconds rule.
Right.
And we decided to every 27 seconds put something like a wandering merchant or some kind of question mark to lure the player to do different stuff than amazing quests, because this is an open world game, so we have different activities. And yes, it was pretty intense, and we had some problems because creating such huge open world requires a lot of work between different departments, like open world team, quest team, and environmental team. Do you remember Pavel's situation with starvation in Velen? And
oh, yeah, of course, because normally it works like that there's like lots of people involved, right? Like some people build art, some people do the concept art, some people do the quests, and others populate the world, right?
So the whole concept of Velen was that people are there is starvation, the hunger in the whole area. So the quests support the story, and our chats in the community support the story, but environmental guys created wonderful villages with wonderful houses full of sausages hanging around.
Right.
So you had chats or dialogues like, "I'm so fucking hungry," and then in the back you see the sausages hanging around and black pudding. Also,
and as he's taking a
right. The other thing, you had the dialogue in the village, and then somebody is whining about the hunger, and then in the background you see the pack of deers.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I also read in Jason Schreier has a book coming out, and there's a chapter on The Witcher, and he said that even in the closets, like inventory, there was just like cheese wheels and like all these like delicious and like beautiful apples and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it was the fault of our loot system that was sometimes doing this, so we had to covered that because basically you were entering the village outside of this sausages on physics because we wanted to showcase that. Outside of that, there were also like ham sandwiches. Like all the villages, they always had it, you know. So
ham sandwiches.
Yeah, sandwiches with the ham.
Or
like
chicken
that was.
Sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. And other thing is that usually, like our villages, when I was like running around and playtesting stuff, we were reporting it to the gameplay guys. So at the end, it didn't stay like that. But throughout the production of Witcher 3, like every villager in their sack, in their house, they had an onion and a piece of a wire.
What?
Yeah, I mean,
Drink
this.
wine and eating.
Okay.
Somehow, you know, our loot system thought that it's proper, you know.
An onion and a piece of wire.
Yeah.
Were they like playing kickball or something?
To cut the onion, you know?
Oh, to cut the onion.
Yeah.
Genius.
Adventure games.
Exactly. You can see the experience, yeah.
So, this 27-second rule, right? What needed to be there for every 27 seconds? Not just like a full quest,
No,
like anything.
it should be something connected to the open world content. So we have
It could be a bunny rabbit.
No, it shouldn't be like that. Monster, yes. If it's
a monster.
A monster, yeah, monster or traveling merchant or some question mark on the map or stuff like that.
So let's talk about populating that world then, right? So you have your quest team, they're going to be making quests and whatnot, but talk a little bit about the stuff that's not like core quest. You mentioned the word communities.
Mm-hmm.
Communities is basically the people
like
in
crowds,
the
crowds in settlements. Yes, so we trying to achieve different atmosphere in different regions. So we have different type of dialogues and different type of characters in Velen, which is quite rustical part of the world, and different types of NPCs and different types of dialogues in Novigrad, and the same with the Skellige. And we're trying to achieve different atmosphere in all these regions with dialogues, with those small content. So Treasure Hunts touches different subjects in Velen than in Novigrad and like Skellige.
Right. Presumably that's a lot of dialogue to write then, Boris.
Loads. Well,
new accents as well.
Also, just, I mean, honestly, if I could have had my way, everybody in Skellige would have spoken Norwegian, and we would have had English subtitles. No, but we opted for Northern Irish for the Skelligers. The Velenese were primarily West Country. Vizima was theoretically the North's largest metropolis. We went for a mix of London accents. Yeah.
And we'll get into Blood and Wine in a little bit, but touch on that in terms of the accents, because that was a very interesting decision you guys made, because it's the Mediterranean, but it's not really a Mediterranean accent.
Yeah, Toussaint in general is sort of painted in the novels as a place that where Romance language names reign, but we were very sort of reticent about using German accents or French accents because they'd been done in parody to a ridiculous degree. Right. So we had to come up with an accent of our own, which was a light Danish actually, because it was just about unvoicing terminal consonants and changing a few vowels. The reviewers thought they were wonky French accents, but they weren't. Yeah.
Let's talk about the business side a little bit as well, scaling up the business, because obviously you started The Witcher 1 with a very, very small, I mean, you started the original version with only 4 people, and then it expanded, and obviously 2 expanded as well. Talk about The Witcher 3 in terms of getting that big, because the cautionary tale is always the minute a studio gets big, it becomes too top-heavy, and then things start to go bad. Obviously, that didn't happen with Wild Hunt. So what was that process like, Marcin?
I mean, so it was a biggest change was obviously from Witcher 2 to Witcher 3, but what is important, we were doing one thing at a time. So with Witcher 1, Atari was publishing, we are self-publishing in Eastern Europe, so Poland, Russia, and the smaller countries around. And actually, funnily enough, we were not able, as they were controlling the West, so they were deciding on the box, what comes in the box and everything. We're not able to convince them to add more stuff. So the Polish edition of the first Witcher was like a huge, like 3 or 4 DVD boxes. There was making of video. There was a game guide. There was a soundtrack. There was lots of stuff. So exactly as we wanted to make it, but Atari said like, no, sorry, the cost of goods are too high. So it was just one DVD box.
Right.
And only after, with the enhanced edition, we were able to convince them. So we learned that, I mean, it was a lot of frustration because we were doing this sort of distribution publishing business ourselves in our country and the neighboring countries for many years. So we knew what, gamers like. We wanted to deliver something from our hearts. And then we had a partner over there that said like, no, it's too expensive. So already for Witcher 2, we were deciding on that. And then we didn't have a problem to put out Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition. And then on Witcher 3, we decided to just run totally wild with it. Right. And of course, it was never like we just planned it from the very beginning that it will be so huge. And it never happens like this, at least in our case. It was step by step. So the first E3 we showed it, the response was just phenomenal, and then it sort of was making us more and more courageous. And,
right.
And we're adding more resources, we're investing more, but we're scaling the team and step by step, bit by bit. And then when we went to the market, we already knew that the game will be big. But again, all the sales and all the fans' response, and thanks to you guys, it has exceeded our wildest dreams.
Right, and presumably then that's what sort. Is that team then working on the next project on Cyberpunk? Does that
which project?
The cyber.
We're not supposed to discuss. No?
Okay.
What's the
I tried. We'll get you out in a few years, maybe, and talk about
but
it.
Yes. So it's way more an evolution than a revolution. As you see, like we all gain more and more experience. On my side, more business publishing guys. On the development side, each of their professional categories. But it's all built using the experience and the knowledge we gained on what we have delivered so far and the response from you guys.
It's one of the incredible things about going out at the end of last month was talking to so many people who had been there for so long, because it's quite unique within video games, especially the scale of game that you're sort of creating. For the third game,
that's one more thing. I mean, like, let me wrap it up. I think that's why we value our independence so much, because we are the masters of our destiny. So the moment we'll release a bad game, this will probably start falling apart. But we'll, of course, do everything for it not to happen. But there's nobody telling us, hey guys, I think right now you have to do this game or that game, or scale it up or scale it down. These are our choices. So in our internal meetings, we talk about what we want to deliver to gamers and what we want to deliver as a game, and not the business aspects of things. And I think that's the core strength of our company.
Right.
And we've been fighting for that since The Witcher 1.
Yeah. Pavo, big fan of the first game, got to work on the second game after applying to CD Projekt like 25 times. Third game, you've got a pretty important role on the team, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the third game, I was one of the seniors. I was taking care of a lot of main quests in the game, and then I became a lead on both expansions. Yeah.
So what was that experience like? What was it like getting like, okay, the second game was pretty big. It basically had like kind of 2 stories happening in it, but now we're going to create this massive world, go fill it with stories and quests.
Mm-hmm. I mean, first thing that we always came up with is we work with our story team when they provide like an outline of a story. And this outline basically shows you what the game's gonna be about in like a grand scheme of things. Like what are the biggest story arcs, What are the biggest decisions and the most important things we want to talk about. And then the quest team gets this story, and then we separate it. We cut it into quests. We give it a technical number, basically a number that will be referring to this quest throughout the next few years.
Right.
And a lot of people knows no numbers in the company. It's pretty funny sometimes. And then we develop full really long scenarios for those games. And like, let's say the Baron story, right? The scenario that I wrote for it was like 60 pages long.
Wow.
Of the document, just describing basically what happens, in what order and why. And it's of course like, the quest team works on it, then he sends it out to the story team, and they put their own input. And then there's also cinematics team that they add their part, so just we make sure that everything looks good on the screen as well. And then on top of that, we have open world team, so that we make sure that everything is connected with the world, actually. Right? So all the characters, they have lives. If you leave the character and you come back to him or her, they are actually doing something meaningful or something that is actually connected in some way to their being, to their personality and their role in the story.
So how do you go about like the process of actually, like, I don't know, scheduling all that? Is it the type of thing where you're like, okay, we're going to work on Skellige now, we're going to work on Velen now, or is it just this process of everyone fixing parts and collaborating and filling in the gaps, kind of like a coloring book?
That's the part where we always ship games on time, yes?
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dan.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, we operate in incredible chaos all the time. and this is...
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Well, thing is that you have a lot of creative people on the tasks all the time, and they develop parts of the story in the same time. So basically, the character has some traits that he doesn't have at the end, and it cannot be like this, right? It has to be cohesive. So then, you develop something, and you have an amazing idea for like a character, right? Bartek was giving once this example of like Baron's story, right? Because we started from something slightly different, but then we transformed it and made it mostly about him, actually, because it was something that stand out, the idea for the character and the way how he was connected to Ciri. So basically, we work on those parts, and we just make sure we make our best it fits. But, it pretty much never fits.
And my team is going after quest team. We are trying to fit our part of the game to emphasize the story from the quest. So it's like a cooperation all the time.
So that's where you get those inconsistencies, like the food, is that everything's not like planned. It's just things that are wrong sort of end up standing out while you start to fill it all in.
Sometimes communication is broken, sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah, and I also wanted to highlight like the impact that our testers now QA have on that, right? Because they play the stuff, they basically suggest a lot of things, and we always take it into consideration. And I remember one story that that I like a lot, actually. So at the very beginning of The Witcher, Witcher 3, the land that we started with was Skellige, right? So we basically prepare a male models. And, well, guys on Skellige or bearded dudes, with helmets and so on. Yeah. And then when I was implementing like a part of the story in Novigrad, when Geralt meets Rosa Varatre, she was this bearded dude in a helmet, and Geralt was talking to her for most of the production, and I get a bug from a QA. It was a P5 priority, so like very, very low, like very unimportant priority. And the bug said, Rosa Varatre could be a bit more girlish.
How deep in development was that one found?
I mean, our QA is pretty good in this thing, so they spotted it right away, but they don't want to suggest things like that.
Right. I've heard that model is still being used as a template in other games as well, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much happening in this game. One of them, there's so many things that stand out about it, but one of it is the soundtrack is absolutely incredible. You got, round of applause.
Oh, you guys.
So, on The Witcher 2, you worked on the sort of the sound team, but in more of a technical sort of role, it seems. On The Witcher 3, you were given the responsibility of working on the soundtrack. Tell us a little bit about the type of sound you went for, because it's incredibly unique, I think. Perhaps maybe more unique to people outside of Poland. It's like there's no game that sounds like, there's nothing that sounds like it.
I think that you guys might consider Witcher 3 soundtrack sort of, I don't know, how do you say that? Oriental, perhaps?
Exotic.
For some points, because we indeed are so grounded in our Slavic mythology regarding music as well. So what kind of scales would we use? What kind of instruments would we pick to actually try to recreate that impression of the sound? Because the bottom line, which I found actually the most amusing for me is that no one knows how medieval Slavic music sounded like, because if you think about it, the Gutenberg machine, so the first printing presses, right, were like in 14th century perhaps, and immediately the church put their hands on it, right? So it was restricted for just mortal people, right? Because you had to print all those, church stuff, and the whole tradition of playing music just for fun, for amusement, was passed from the generation to generation, orally, right? So what we did was actually to try to create an impression of doing music in a way that probably our forefathers would play it, in a way that our audience, you guys, would actually think this is believable enough, this is real enough for you guys, for the players to actually buy this stuff,
right?
Buy this conception, right? But it's not. It doesn't end here, because picking the instruments kind of sounds easy, because okay, you just swipe Wikipedia, right, or whatever source you might have, and see, okay, what did I have in 14th century? Hurdy-gurdy. Okay, yeah, let's take it.
A hurdy-gurdy. I think we have a picture of the hurdy-gurdy, actually.
We have that? Yeah, that one.
Exactly.
Actually, that is a custom one, so you won't find any other piece of that tool in any part of the world, because normally hurdy-gurdy is like a half size of it, but this one has been built on a cello resonance box, so it's much bigger, it has more strings, and it sounds like a fucking devil screaming. So, so I'm very proud of having that particular instrument in our soundtrack, because that is actually what makes our music sound different. Because you have tons of games that use hurdy-gurdy,
right,
but none of the game uses that one. But still, you just pick the instruments and that's it. Okay, that everyone can do it, right? What was important for me as well was to work closely with those guys as well, and try to implement music in a way that it becomes a natural part, natural ingredient of the world. We have some ups and downs, so I still remember you mentioned that sausage problem, right? So I had the similar problem with Velen, actually, because it was like the early alpha build, and we were doing first attempts of implementing exploration music for free roaming, and we had some gaps. We didn't know what to do with them, so we figured out that we already placed this Bard group in Novigrad that are playing, upbeat Gwent music. So we're just gonna do the same thing in Velen, right? So the moment you have no idea how to deal with any location, we just took those musicians, put them, draw a trigger around them, play sound emitter so they can play music, and that kind of didn't fit, actually, because the whole Velen thing was about the horrors of war, right? So your family members slaughtered, raped, taken away for army, and every 100 meters you have a bunch of people playing. So luckily we spotted that it doesn't make sense, basically. So we got rid of the musicians from all of Velen. So Velen remains pure with that. But the other thing which was very important for me was working with the Quest guys and create some sort of line of connection that our work interacts with each other. So I think our crown achievement would be Blood and Wine thing, but we did the same thing with the Bloody Baron story arc, with Ladies of the Woods. But with Blood and Wine, we had this meeting with Oriana, Detlef, Regis, and Geralt, right? At her place. So, and for me, it always felt like a Mexican standoff kind of thing. So you are at the table talking with your vampire friends, and now that dude is approaching the table. That dude, he just tried to kill you 2 quests earlier. And that sequence lasts for like 15 minutes. It's 100% dialogue, so nothing happens, but it gave me this feeling of tense, like I would watch Quentin Tarantino movie.
Right.
So the moment I saw, and I actually spotted with Pavel that scene, I told him, okay, I'm gonna try prepare something to fit the scene. Took me a couple of weeks, and I got back with that music. And I remember one of the guys actually implementing that quest from your team, telling me, okay, you know what? I've listened to that. I need another few weeks so I can make some changes. And my first reaction would be, okay, what I did wrong, right? So what's not working? So how can I iterate my stuff so it fits better? And he told me, no, your stuff is fine, just give me some time. So what had happened, he listened to the music and he did feel the same thing I felt, so he rebuilt the whole dialogue to make it longer, to make it more tense, so the music can, breathe into the scene and actually, take over the whole atmosphere.
Amazing.
So,
it's an incredible anecdote that sort of like, from the week and a half I spent out in Warsaw talking to a lot of the folks in the team, a lot of folks who aren't here as well, the sort of creative freedom and collaboration that you fostered on that team. We've loads more we could talk about. We're going to open up to QAs in just a couple of minutes. I've got a couple from the forums, first of all, so just get your minds thinking about what you'd like to ask, and we'll have Geralt and Yen, I believe, going to be walking around picking you guys out. But before we do that, we talked a bit about the DLC. I also want to talk a little bit about Gwent. Obviously, standalone game. A lot of people are playing it at the moment. It's sort of official release coming up as well. But the Gwent quest in The Witcher 3, was that always meant to be that long? That's like, how did that happen?
I mean, with the Gwent quest line, we tried to find something that would fit in the scale of the budget, let's say, like work hours we had basically to pull it off. So we tried to propose something that would be the best to make the game, feel nice and so on. And there are people who really found the Gwent like minigame itself like amazing, and they bought into this. And I know that there are people who didn't really, right? It was not something for them. So we tried to make it in a way that you can, but you don't have to, right? So that was really our line of thoughts. And as always, we try to add a story to the whole thing, just to make it more interesting. And I think that actually ties up nicely with our Thronebreaker, right? With the Gwent Thronebreaker, because this is our 15-hour campaign for the single player in our Gwent game.
All right, you put a card game in your RPG, and now you're putting an RPG in your card game.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
That felt logical when we did it. But there's one neat detail about it. So actually, currently, amount of dialogue that we have in the Thronebreaker is the same as we had in the Hearts of Stone. So it's actually a lot of story there.
There's as much story in the Gwent single-player campaign as there was in the expansion pack.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. And I mean, Blood and Wine as well. I know I keep bringing it up, the C word. I'll try not to, but every game you've made, it's been like bigger and bigger, and the scale in The Witcher 3 didn't think it was going to be that big.
Stop it here, Danny.
Blood and Wine, then. That's like how long? 25 hours? Something?
I think it's more. It's taken me 40, but I was going really deep. But I mean, when we actually, it's funny because that's the first time we really planned and delivered real expansions, and we really were adamant about calling them expansions, like in the good old days when we were playing the Baldur's Gate, the Tales of the Sword Coasts, and like the Diablo expansions and whatnot. And wanted to see that this is not some small DLC. DLC was for free, and we're talking about it a lot. I think we got a lot of great feedback on that. And the way we planned the expansion, we said, okay, so the first one, Hearts of Stone, it's pretty much 10 hours. We had already a solid concept of the story you guys had, so it was like, and pretty much that's what we delivered. I think the story was great. It was new. It was fresh. Again, very polished in a way, very appealing to us as well. But then the Blood and Wine was the second expansion that will happen after we deliver the first one. And the way we planned it was the first one was supposed to be 10 hours, and Blood and Wine, so the second one like maybe 15. The price of the expansion pass was $25. So roughly how we were counting it, we thought it would be fair to charge more or less $1 per hour, like give or take. And then sort of Blood and Wine happened, which was like almost like a standalone game. So yeah, we're not very good with planning.
Yeah.
The scope.
I keep talking to Witcher fans who are saying like, "Oh, I'll eventually complete Blood and Wine."
Yeah.
Like people who put 200 hours in. Is there people here who are still trying to complete Blood and Wine? Yeah. People here are still trying to complete The Witcher 3? Oh, yeah. All right.
Marcin also raised his hand.
All right, I want to get to some questions before. There's two I'm going to pick here from the forums that came through. Reptile PZ asking, over these 10 years, what are your fondest memories related to working on the franchise? Do you have any big regrets or things you're especially proud of? Is there anything that stands out for each of you individually, something you worked on, an aspect of the game that you're particularly proud of?
I mean, for me, honestly, like I'm the most proud of the main storyline of the whole Witcher 3. Some quests that I worked on, but some of that my colleagues worked on. It was something that we put incredible amount of time on into it, just to make it right, just to make it feel good, you know, have a good story and basically mean something, right? Because that was important for us, that this game is about something, you know, and you can see actually there are thoughts of people behind it, and there's care and love behind this. So that's something that I really always try to put in there, and that was something that we tried to do also in Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine a lot.
Anything again stand there for the rest of you?
Regret. Geralt should have been able to romance whoever he wanted to.
Right.
Oh, Boris.
Whoa.
I mean, Priscilla and Anarietta included.
So
Anarietta is your best pal's girlfriend. You can't do those things.
No,
your friend.
You can't, but...
Geralt can't. He has some...
Dude, bros before hoes, remember?
So this is a place where we don't agree with Boris, really. He's up to romancing everything.
Right. You just like reading or writing that dialogue, presumably. All right, check out. I bet your private fanfic blog is real good. Another question here from Canny. Were there any last-minute changes prior to release that changed aspects of the plot in the series? Any stuff that got changed? I know like quests did change. Characters got cut as well, right? In each game. Anything stand out? You managed to get a fanfic into Hearts of Stone, actually.
Actually, the entire prologue to The Witcher 2, the fact that it was changed to a series of flashbacks intercut with the interrogation of Geralt by Vernon Roach, that was a very, very, very late date change.
Right. Why did it come about?
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I think it was just about heightening interest. I think it was about
more. It was adding a lot of dynamics. I remember the discussion with Adam Badowski, who came and said, like, yeah, you know, I had this crazy idea. We'll just cut it in pieces and we'll mix it up. And it really made perfect sense. I mean, it was way more dynamic and more intriguing and engaging for gamers.
Yeah, one additional story that came to my mind is that during Witcher 3 production, I was always in a Team Shani, actually, from Witcher 1. And I felt that she is missing in the game. And we tried to find a place for her. But, you know, some characters are so important, and they're so big, and the role is like so tremendous in the story that you can't just shove them in some way. So you have to find a proper space for them. And Shani didn't fit in The Witcher 3, actually. So then when we start designing Hearts of Stone, like one of my things that I really wanted to do, get the Shani in, right? And I made her one of the important characters in the wedding quest, right? When Vitol's taking care of
It's a very
control.
personal story.
Cut away.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why Shani is in Hearts of Stone so much, right? Because we wanted to bring the character that was there, and she was important for some of the players from Witcher 1, and she was not in Witcher 2, so we wanted to pick up on that.
Awesome. All right.
The scene on the lake.
Yeah. I remember our writers asking me, so Paweł, how do you imagine this sex on the boat actually to happen? Because I was trying to sell them some ideas, but they were not buying into it.
And Paweł was like, I have some sketches right here.
Awesome. All right, we've talked long enough. I want to open up some questions to everyone else who's out here. Geralt, I believe, is in the wings. Okay, and Yennefer's there as well. Perfect. Put your hands up. We're not going to queue people up. Put your hands up. Geralt, first of all, who would you like to pick? Okay, we got some people. This is good. Put your hands up if you want. He's not going to chop your head off, I swear.
Not before the question, for sure.
He's intimidating a lot of people. He's very intimidating. I saw a video of Geralt in China when it was like 120 degrees or something, and you were wearing all that.
And he's fluent in Chinese.
Right, it's amazing. I know, he's been translated into 15 languages or something. All right, first question. What's your name, sir, and what is your question?
My name is Brandon. So we talked a little bit about Shani being omitted from the first game and then bringing her into the third game. And I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on the creative decision to not bring Yorveth back in the third game.
That's an excellent question, actually. Thank you, sir. So, starting off with the Yorveth. Actually, from the middle of the production of Witcher 3, we planned to have Yorveth really there, right? And we found a spot for him. He was supposed to be a different character, transformed man, but then he didn't fit. He didn't fit in any fucking way we could try to do it. And believe me, I'm one of the guys who actually loves Yorveth. Right? So we really tried to actually put him to the game. And we actually had a storyline for him. The thing is that when it doesn't fit, you can really feel it. And we were like, okay, so either we deliver a lower quality game with a worse character that we want, or we just cut him from the game and just do the best of other characters that we can do. And that was really the creative decisions we took. That was really it.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what he would have done had he made it in?
No.
Oh.
You're good. It's good.
Thank you very much. Geralt, look after him.
All right, Jennifer's picked somebody out over here. Can you tell us your name, first of all, and your question?
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Hey, Stephanie.
So my question is, in Witcher 3, through a dialogue choice, you find out the nature of Ciri's previous relationships. Will there be more representation of LGBTQ in future games?
Question.
Yeah. Of course. Naturally. No question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah.
Are we getting into cyberpunk territory if we start asking more about that? I feel.
Hold your horses.
Come on, man. All right. Thank you so much for a question. Wonderful. Gentleman over here.
My name's Felipe. Two questions, if I may. First was for the soundtrack. It was fantastic. Thank you for that. I was wondering if there was going to be another chance to possibly get it on vinyl, since I slept on that and wasn't actually able to get on the first batch when it was released.
Who did your fulfillment for vinyl?
If there will be one more batch of vinyl.
Yes. Will there? Do you know?
We don't.
No, but I don't know if I can say it. Can I say it?
Yes. Oh, I think so. I think that was someone on the PR team. Yeah.
I didn't say it, but you guys, get the drift, right?
Keep your eyes peeled, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you. And
awesome.
As well, since we were talking about Geralt being able to romance everyone,
right.
And as well, inclusion. Any possibility we might be able to get like a Geralt dating sim or something?
What? A Geralt dating sim.
Oh, just a fun idea.
Wonderful question, sir. Let's move on.
That's why you need to get the mod tools out again. Let the community make what they want. Lovely. Question over here, please. Tell us your name and your question.
Hi, my name is Abby. I wrote my question down so I wouldn't screw it up.
No worries.
How do you approach adventure game tropes and stereotypes like the Scottish dwarves and item fetch quests and adapt or embrace those from a writing perspective in order to keep the games from feeling like any other RPG?
Wonderful question. Who wants to take that one?
I guess Boris should start and then he can pick up
I don't want to. Somebody else start. I need to think about it.
I mean, okay. So first of all, it's a really good question, but the answer for it is like 100 hours. So I try to put it short. So first and foremost, we try to put a meaning into the game. And like whatever we design, and we just think, okay, what this thing is supposed to tell us, and what's the purpose of it, and how it serves the characters, and why it's there for, really. Like, what do we want to do? And for us, the important thing is the emotions and the feelings of our players. What they feel and what they think when those things happen on the screen. So this is like foremost thing that we consider when we think about the story. And then when you have a fetch quest, let's say Witcher 2 example, right? You had to undo the curse that was there on the battlefield. When you look structurally on those things, it is actually a fetch quest that you go, for different things, you just bring it, to one place and then you remove the curse. That's pretty much it. This is what happens on the structural level. However, when it comes to the story, all those things are actually really well grounded in all the lore, in all the dialogues, in all the characters, and they matter something, And this is one of the reasons why it actually doesn't feel shallow. So that's some answer for your question.
The only thing that I would add is, tropes, existing tropes, aren't bad by definition. It's what you do with them. It's I think the emotional content that you put into it, the richness of the language that absolves them of familiarity, I think.
I mean, one of the things that came across a lot when I was talking to a bunch of the Quest team, actually, probably specifically, and also in the environment artists, was that there was this sort of internal feeling, not of competition necessarily, but everyone was sort of like trying to make sure that if they were working on an area or a quest, that there was something unique happening in it that justified it being like even in the game.
Yeah.
Is that just part of the culture of CD Projekt, or?
I mean, it is. I often get asked the question if we feel the pressure of working, on our next game, and I'm like, we do not really, because the thing is, if you come to work and you every day do 120%, you can't do anything more. If nobody would wait for this game, I would still go and do 120, no matter what. So like, there's nothing that changes. And then when you put your stuff into the game, you want this thing to be good, because that's part of you. And this is the moment when it just starts to have meaning, and you start feeling something. And then the player feels it.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please, tell us your name and your question as well.
Hi, I'm Linnea, and I just wanted to ask, I'm a huge mythology geek, and I wanted to know, what is your favorite piece of lore, whether it be something like a plot line that you've incorporated from the books, or some kind of creature, mythology, monster thing you've incorporated into the game?
That's great.
Wow! I mean,
let's go round on that one.
I can start from myself. So the one that I really loved is the Birthlink. It shows up in the Baron storyline. There's the Botchlink and the Birthlink. Those are both like really well grounded in the Polish Slavic mythology. I just gave it way more context with the writer, with Karolina Stachyra, the one that was writing the quest with me. But that was the one that I really felt like it was this atrocious, really weird, strange creature. It was partially like coming from horror, and then partially it was a bit funny. And then I felt that me really feel an amazing way actually to the Baron storyline. So that's the answer for me.
Gunter Odin for me. I think this is the ultimate villain for video games in general, and the whole execution of the character development those guys did. My tiny addition of the song of the Master of Mirrors, and this whole feeling of his presence and knowing that he is the ultimate force in this universe, and basically there's nothing that can stop him, yet Geralt still manages to find a way to at least draw things away, makes the perfect combination for me, and with Ladies of the Wood being number 2.
Right. Yeah. Boris.
I guess it's something that you can romance. Boris, I can help you. It's a succubus.
Follow up.
Yeah, I'll go with the succubus. Jesus.
We can come back to you if you want.
No. I don't know.
No, go ahead.
You need to think about it. So
All right, you don't have to choose which one of your child is going to live. Tell us one.
But it's a difficult one, because, for example, when I'm playing our games, I'm always there for for the sheer scale and the number of characters. So it's very hard for me to pick just one. I'm there for the story. I want to be immersed. I want to be surprised. So at a certain point, I don't know, it's serious, sometimes it's Triss, and sometimes it's a certain monster. So it really depends. Like the character which I really like, I mean, I really like Dandelion in the third, and I really like Priscilla and her song, and like, but this works for me at this given moment, and then I move on and I'm somewhere else, and I don't know, I'm in Skellige, and I'm fascinated with another character.
Right. All right. Good stuff.
It's too big of a game just to pick one.
Right, and there's so many different notes. Like we talked when I was in Warsaw about the elements of the Irish language, Gaelic, which is not very prominent at all outside of Ireland, but there's loads of that in Skellige. Like even the way people say Cadmil and things reminds me of like Céad Míle Fáilte, which is hello basically in Irish. So there's so many like little notes in the game. There's such depth.
That's a cue that I think we took from Sapkowski. Sapkowski in his books. I mean, we love him because he peppered them with Proto-Slavic or general Slavic lore. But he draws really broadly. He draws from Norse mythology, he draws from Germanic mythology, he draws heavily from Arthurian legend. And yeah, we follow his example. You know?
Wonderful question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got time for one or two more, maybe three, depending on how these go. Sir, please. Your name and your question.
Hello, I'm Chris. One thing that impressed me about this series is that it gets localized into a lot of different languages, Russian and English, and of course Polish, which means you can
and Arabic and Chinese and
Japanese, Brazilian, Portuguese,
Turkish in the expansion pack as well.
Korean.
Turkish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm wondering, was that a business risk on your part, and how did you make it happen? Was that hard?
Okay, I'll maybe tell you first of all why we're doing that. Because we come from Poland, and it took me personally many years to convince foreign publishers when we were distributing games to localize games into Polish. And I was telling them, hey, there is 38 million Polish people, and at that time, not that many of them speak good English, so we need to localize it. Oh, the market is too small, it doesn't make sense. So yes, I think we are quite adamant. We take business risk because I believe that we should deliver the game in as many languages as possible, because our fans need to get fully immersed into the story. And as you see, like the discussion we're having about the detail, about the feeling of little tiny elements, sometimes one adjective. Like I prefer to play Witcher in Polish because that's my mother tongue. And English, I have no problem, but sometimes I don't get the exact sense of this given word, and then I see that I'm missing something. So imagine, I don't know, a Japanese gamer or a Chinese gamer playing the game in English, and they're missing a huge part of it. So why wouldn't we deliver it in their mother tongue? And this actually surprised us a great deal because we saw that the game is very universal, and like we can talk about, I don't know, Europe or North America or South America. Yeah, similar culture, similar roots. But then we go to China, and I talk to Chinese gamers or to Japanese gamers. It's like, wow, we love this element, we love that element. I think the language of games it's universal as long as you take the time and effort to deliver, a perfect game in the local language. Then only you give your game a real chance.
It's a whole fascinating aspect of game design that I don't think I really appreciated until I went out and talked to I interviewed a bunch of folks for your localization team. In the 7-part series we're putting out, one of them is literally only about localization and adaptation. And I was talking to you, Boris, about it. And one of the things that I didn't realize was that when we talk about localization, you think about translating words, right? But your job as an adapter is literally not just to do that, but to take things and apply it so that the culture understands it. You're not just changing the words.
Well, it's never strictly translation. It's never strictly just I don't know, fully idiomatic rendering of what was there in the source. It's about enrichment. It's about taking a core meaning and rendering it, rewriting it in the target language. And we do this for all the languages, so that it makes sense and is rich and has the best possible entertainment value in that target language. You know.
It's incredible. Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful question.
Yes, and thank you for the blooper reel.
Yes, sir. Lovely shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Is he on staff?
And my name is Bryce, and I'm one of more of the older gamers here, and I've seen a lot of changes in the industry in the last 20 years, and not all of it good, in regards to the microtransactions, the DLC costs, the parting out of all our content, and you say you're here for us, but we're here for you because you came up from very humble beginnings a long time ago, and you thought, how can we deliver value to the gamers? How can we make this worth paying for versus, like during an interview you said during the fall of the Communist Union, you would distribute to them, but then it's like, how do we make people pay for this? So you haven't forgotten about what it is to give us a game that we want to spend our hard-earned money for, and then also at the time giving us an experience that is very memorable to us. And for you not to forget that means a great deal to a lot of us gamers, where a lot of developers are just forgetting that. It's just a cash flow to them. And you remember that we're doing this because you're doing it for us because you love doing it and you love us to support you, but you support us. And I think I speak for me, and I think a lot of us here, a lot of us watching, thank you for not forgetting about us.
We really appreciate that you guys noticed that, and actually you vote with your wallets, and so yeah. Thank you for that. That's really important. But I just want to say we have one very simple rule at the company, and as long as I'm there, I'll make sure that we check all the key decisions by this rule. So. Whenever we discuss something, and it can be like the price of expansion or the release date or how we want to market something, like, the business aspects of things, there is one simple rule. Can we explain why we have taken such decision in front of a room full of gamers? And it's very simple. And then we sort of question ourselves that, and if the answer is no, then we just don't do it. And that's as simple as that. Because if we can be straightforward and tell you, hey guys, the price is this and that, because that's that many hours we think that it's worth and we stand by it. That's very simple. And it's not like, hey, somebody paid us some money, so we had to, sort of make it an exclusive on this or that platform, and then it gets all, muddy and shady, and so, yeah. We like things simple, and that's who we are.
Awesome, fair play. Thank you, great question. Last question for today. Thank you so much to Geralt and Jennifer for getting our questions today. Sir, please, your name and your question.
Hi, my name's Gary. My question's actually for all of you. You guys make some of the best characters out there in video game history. I was wondering how you guys created Guntaro Dim and his influence and where he just came from.
Oh wow! I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I know the answer honestly to this question. I mean, it came out from our story team, and the whole Hearts of Stone expansion is really like grounded up in a Polish literature a lot, and that's a funny thing, but. Just after Hearts of Stone came out, I saw like Polish people writing a whole like thesis, on Reddit and so on, explaining foreigners, what it's based on and so on. And I felt like, wow, guys, like why you didn't do it in school, Because it felt like they were really trying to explain everybody like how this came from, where it's built from. And I think it's just the reason it's just really well built into our culture, like we looked into our roots. And just came up with this. And then it's always like, it's never a decision of one person, in the team to do something. So when the writer decides, okay, we want to lead the dialogue in that way, then there is a quest designer to question that. There is a cinematic artist to question that. And there is also people from QA to question that. And the thing is, it's very, very difficult to, push something through that is stupid, basically, that won't fit. That won't fit, and we constantly. we constantly check each other, right?
Sorry, we just
just prepping.
Just chatting. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I see that. So we just constantly basically check each other if it's good. And I guess the rest just comes down to the talent of the team, honestly. Like, I can't give you a better answer of this.
There's actually much more than that, because it's not only about, taking the legend of Mr. Twardowski that Adam Mickiewicz wrote work around with in Pani Twardowska poem. So basically the original story was about the guy trying to fool out the devil, right? And the whole punchline was that we're gonna meet in Rome, and once we meet in Rome, I'm gonna take your soul. So Mr. Twardowski was never gonna actually go in Rome, but by accident he met with the devil in a tavern called Rome. So the contract was fulfilled anyway, just like in The Witcher, right? We stand together on the moon. But apart from that, there's also so much work put in the subcontext level. So I remember this, it was quite huge in social media back in the day, once we showed that Gunter Odim is present as second row, third row character in every single dialogue scene, right?
That's true.
So he may be a wedding guest, he may, be a beggar on the street, he may be just some lonesome traveler, but he's still there somewhere, everywhere. And we did work around it with music as well, so we try to incorporate the Gunter Odim theme in every single tune you can listen in Hearts of Stone, and therefore create this dense, devilish atmosphere that basically that guy knows and sees everything, and you're not gonna walk away from him or run away.
Tiny elements. I remember that you gave me a song by children.
Yeah, the song by children,
so
for
in the
example,
middle of the fields, you have pack of children singing the song, and you're just riding on a horse, and you hear that, and you're just like, wow, it's creepy.
Yeah, there's one singing right there, actually, in the background. Okay, we're basically done. There's a couple of pieces of housekeeping, though, you're not going to want to miss out on. First of all, actually, round of applause for our panelists here. Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt 2 and 1, if you allow me to do a quick plug, we flew out to Warsaw with our crowd-funded video game documentary company, myself and Jeremy, who's there with the camera. We shot a bunch of stuff. We did over 20 interviews with them and the folks at GOG as well. We're putting it all out. It's all free. If you want to go to youtube.com/noclip video, in a couple of weeks you'll be able to watch all of those. We're doing a 7-part series, basically a lot of what you've heard today and way, way more. There's a prize for you guys outside, some treats, but there's a quid pro quo involved. So first of all, what's outside waiting for people when they go outside the doors?
So again, anniversary without gifts wouldn't be an anniversary. We have these lovely t-shirts for each and every one of you. At a one-time only promotional price of $10. Joking. Got you there. And lovely pins as well as posters, so make sure to grab one on the way back. And once again, thank you very much for coming. If that's okay, we still would like to grab a photo with all of you. Just to
don't
show
run
it
out
back
just
home.
yet, because we're going to do the world's biggest Witcher selfie, apparently. Yeah. So we're all going to turn around, or you're all going to turn around, and we have a photographer here. And also, you've got your own phone, because it's 2017. Everyone has a camera.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right, you guys.
So maybe first the professional ones.
Everyone stand up in the back, come on up.
Oh, man. A co z Geraltem Yennefer?